Hello everybody for the Printocent Sustainable World with Printed Intelligence Products webinar. I'm acting as your host, as a role of the chairman of the board in Printocent, and we have here today, we will try a sort of hybrid approach to the webinar. So unfortunately we had to go for the virtual mode, but we do have also here some visitors attending the webinar also in live. But really hope that next time we can make this as fully face-to-face. But anyway, welcome to all. I think we do have something like 160 participants registered for the webinar, so really wide audience. For everybody to know this webinar will be recorded or is already recording going on, and it will be made available in demand later on. Just a couple of words for Printocent. So we are an industrial cluster for promoting the industrialization and commercialization of printed intelligence technologies, together with a group of companies from different parts of the world, different parts of the value chain, small ones, large ones, having the same vision for making these exciting technologies as future products and services to the market. We have today a really exciting program covering the different areas for sustainable world and what we can enable with printed intelligence technologies and products. We have keynote speakers from several market segments, which I will come a little bit later in more detail. And then we have a small break and continue with product and component manufacturing service presentations. And starting from the keynotes, I will share some thoughts for opening the seminar. Then we have interesting insights how the automotive industry is looking for the sustainable topics and how to combine the design and sustainability. And we have an inspiring talk from Andreas Griffith from Chile. Then we go to totally different industry, pharma, and Printocent from Finland France will tell us how to democratize drug delivery and discovery for sustainable drug development. Then we go to construction business. Jani-Mikael Kuusisto is presenting a new potential spin-off company story, the warming services company, tackling the residential energy consumption challenge, providing heat on demand for large area services. And then we have, again, completely different kind of approach for wearables, how to combine repair, reuse in textiles and with the smart wearable taxis. And finally, Antti Kerän from Taxitech will tell about the Taxitech story in IMSI Solutions, how this technology can make things thinner and lighter, which helps us for making cleaner electronics. Let's come to the, after the break, more in details to the next session speakers. So I will go on. Just a couple of words about what do we mean by sustainability, and also how do we think about this thing from maybe intelligence perspective. So basically, sustainability itself is not only environmental issues, but it's focused on meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability for the future generation to meet their needs. So it does have actually three different aspects. So of course, environmental aspect, we have to save the planet we are living on. It has a social aspect. We have to take care of the people and the democracies to have a sustainable life in the future. But also we have to think about economics. So we have to also keep the industries running with profits. In last autumn and spring, we did quite extensive work with Printocent industrial roadmap. We interviewed Printocent members, their future needs. We analyzed them. We made some key findings, recommendations based on the findings, and we will use this input for building up the next program for the next coming years. One quite key finding was that although from the very beginning, printed intelligence have actually had very strong input on the sustainability, we haven't actually promoted it proactively. We have maybe taken it into granted that we are on the right track. So we decided, based on the feedback, also add to our roadmap sort of green and digitalization declaration, where we can highlight the input we can make with printed intelligence technologies when we are creating new products, and in many cases, completely new products. One key issue, especially when we're looking about flexible electronics, structural electronics, that we can really make the functionalities, the structures, the products much thinner and lighter than with the traditional technologies. And especially this will come important when we are talking about vehicles and moving things, automotive, and also by needing much less parts, we can also save really lot of logistics, cost and environmental impact. We can give much more design freedom. We can look for different kind of shapes, which gives us possibility to really save space, which many times also goes hand in hand with the weight reduction. We do need less materials, parts and toolings based on our innovations. We are many times talking about roll processing, especially additive processes like printing is, and that's the factor we can have efficiency in energy efficiency, and also be able to utilize less materials. And with this high integration level, we can really have impact also the digitalization of the future product. And we can have positive impact on the predictive maintenance needs, circular economy. And of course, also it is important that we can replace oil-based plastics with bio-based smart plastics and paper in the future. If you look at today's setup on the presenters in this webinar and how they are contributing to sustainability, we can also see that there are quite many different aspects we can impact. So we have examples today where we can save materials, or we can use recyclable materials, like you can hear with the presentation of New Cable Corporation and Iskent. We can really impact on the energy consumption by making things lighter, or we can use technologies that use less energy, like we were going to hear in presenters of Geely, Printocent and Visible. Also, we can warm things smarter, like we're going to hear the presentation of the warming surface company. We can also make things last longer, which is impacting sustainability, like we hear in the presentation of Optune and Finerbox. And also how we can utilize repairing things, reuse from presentation of oil. And also there's an aspect of the social impact, sustainability, how to make things more healthy, like in the presentation of Mozo, Flex Price, and Finerbox. So let's start hearing the exciting presentation. And first of all, I'd like to ask Andreas Friedrich from Geely to present your ideas how to combine sustainability but do it with style. Please.
Thank you, Kari. It's a pleasure to be here again, even though we are online. I had the pleasure to talk in your Printocent cluster a few times now. So I was really looking forward to be there in real person, but today we have to do it like this, so I will start to share my screen. Yeah. So my name is Andreas Friedrich. I'm a chief designer within Geely, or the Geely Group. I will explain this soon. And I have a specific role to scout for new technology and innovation. And as such, I found Oulu a very, very interesting place where I met many interesting companies, but also through your cluster meetings, I have engaged with other companies around the world. So it's a pleasure to be here today. First, a little company overview, because last time I was speaking in this audience, the company looked in a certain way, but the things change quickly when working with China. So this is actually the latest and greatest I could find on our website. And as you can see, it's quite a lot of different companies and diverse divisions that we have now. So we have passenger cars here, commercial vehicles, and technology even. So they are actively investing in new technology and startups around the world too. And also within mobility and so on. But as you can see, there are quite a few known brands here. We have Volvo, Polestar, and now a new one, Zeekr. And previously I was talking for Lynk & Co, but really I work for both Lynk & Co and Zeekr now. So at our design department in Gothenburg, we are designing the cars for these two brands. And just to give you a little flavor of what this new brand is all about, This is the first fully electric vehicle that we launched in 2 months ago, I think. And it's a new brand called Seeker, and this is the 001 that we did as the first vehicle. What they have also done in China now is that they have started up different clubs. This is the first one in Hangzhou, where the customers will be able to engage with Seeker. And Seeker is called Seeker Intelligent Mobility, and it's all about a complete ecosystem related to electric vehicles. So we also got the task before the launch of this new brand to design a complete family of charging station, and that task ended up in my lap. And we only got 3 weeks to do it, so it was quite crazy, but we managed to do it, and that's where we are now. So we have a new brand in the family, and it's called Seeker. Now, to my speech today, I will start with a few mega trends that we see is affecting the automotive industry. This picture shows how machines have been developing over the past years. And it's an example with airplanes, where you can see it's basically a cylinder in the beginning here with wings on it. And things becomes more and more integrated as we go along the timeline here. So this is, of course, a trend that is very much in line with what you guys are doing with printed intelligence, because things will be more integrated. And this is definitely a trend that we are seeing in automotive as well. But it has previously been very much about form follows function. You know that phrase. Another megatrend is that the customer behavior is changing. When we do see how things have developed over the years, in this example with Mini, that it started out with a very small car and then became bigger and bigger, that is also about form follows function. And also you can see a comparison here with the Golf, the Volkswagen Golf, how that has increased in size. So size was for a long time the driving motivation for customers to buy cars. If it was a good size, then it was a good car, and therefore you would buy it. And recently we have also seen, over the past many years, we've seen that SUVs is a very hot vehicle type that has been very popular. And it has been like that. Customers, they wanted SUVs, and therefore we made SUVs. So in this case, it's more a matter of form and material follows what our engineers say about perceived quality and the status of our customers and whatever sells the most. So that is actually what has been the driving force of designing cars over the past many years. But things are changing, customer behavior is changing, and the most selling electric vehicle in China right now is actually this little fellow. Only 2 doors, but still a 4-seater, and really good for city drivers. This outnumbered Tesla and many other competitors in China. It's not a beautiful car, but it's a very practical car. So this is where we see that things are changing. But if we talk about the business model, the old way of doing things was the linear economy. A good way of doing things is recycling. We have been talking about that for many years now. But now we are talking a lot about circular economy. But then the future, or what we see is coming now, is about rethink, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So reuse is about the circular part, recycle, we know that one, but rethink and reduce are the new players here. And this is where we think that we as an automotive industry need to think quite different. And also try to reduce things in a clever way. These 4 words I actually borrowed from BMW that has launched a circular concept vehicle just yesterday actually. So the current approach in automotive is about reducing weight. It's about recycling the materials. And it's also about trying to design for an easier way of disassembling things. And we are looking a lot into other alternative to materials so we can reduce the amount of virgin plastics. But the recycling that is happening today, this is a picture from Stena Metall in Sweden, where they actually have a huge plant where they recycle cars. And the way it's done today is that you take the whole car, take out the liquids and take out the airbags, and then you have a big machine that is chewing the whole car into tiny, tiny small pieces. Then in these big machinery over here, it's then separated by going through different baths and different shaking and different magnets and different things. So they basically sort out the metals, they sort out the electronic leftovers, and then all the rest that is floating is called fluff. And that is more or less the whole interior and all the plastic parts, and the fluff is what's left over. Metal can be reused and sometimes we can recycle the electronics in a clever way, but really this is what the situation looks like right now. So it's not super optimal. But when it comes to recycling, it would need a bit of identification of the different materials. And within automotive, we are actually quite good at this already. But another industry that is looking very much into this way of trying to do things in a clever way is the textile industry or the fashion industry. What we see here is an attempt to make a little tiny NFC tag that is sewn into clothing. And then you can identify your product and also know much more about it once you want to recycle it or resell it or whatever. And I think this is a good direction for what we could do with printed electronics or printed intelligence, that we could make these kind of NFC or identifiable things within different parts of a car. And this is a bit of the approach with circular design right now, that we try to see if we can maintain the products within the circle here. Or once you have to scrap it, then you can collect things and you can repair things, or you have the possibilities to refurbish or remanufacture things, or in worst case, recycle everything. So this is a little bit how we see that the automotive scenario could develop as well. Here to the BMW circular vision that was released yesterday or 2 days ago at the IAA. And this is a quite interesting approach where they try to make a vehicle that is really easy to disassemble, is being made with a lot of recycled materials, and has been done from the very start of how to do things. And here you could say that the form and the material, it follows the circularity and sustainability. So we're heading in a direction where it's not form follows function, but it's more circularity and sustainability that is actually dictating the design. This is also their approach on how to do their recycling and how they work today. That they try to do them in a proper way so you can easily disassemble them and then reuse part or recycle them. And here's another approach from Danish Bang & Olufsen that has made this circular, world's first cradle-to-cradle certified product actually as well, or at least audio products, where they think that this would be the future, and this is actually in production now. So they have different electronic components that are updatable over the air. but also could be replaced over time. And as you can see, the whole product itself is really easy to disassemble and recycle if needed, or to update. So we think within automotive, this could be a really fantastic approach. And when it comes to different biomaterials and sustainable materials, I know that you guys in Finland are really good at this within the Ecotronics project you are running there, and also what VTT is doing. And I'm really eager to know the latest and greatest. And I see that we have a few speakers on that topic today as well. But here, just to mention, this is a project from Fraunhofer, where they're trying to do a stand-up paddleboard made with completely renewable, lightweight materials. So here they actually take bamboo, no, not bamboo, but lightweight wood that is in the wings of wind power generators, and recycled it into a fluff, and then they have made a patent that way of making this into a foam, a wood foam. Then they have flax fiber, and then they have a fully bio-based epoxy binder as well. And by doing so, they can do a fully biodegradable stand-up paddleboard. So conclusion is that form follows function is where we were. Form and material follows perceived quality and status, and whatever sells the most. That's what we're doing more or less right now. But in the future, it is more a matter of circularity and sustainability actually dictating the shape and the design. So with this, I would like to end my little presentation, and I hope I was sticking to the 12 minutes. Kari?
Perfect timing, Andreas. Thank you for very interesting insights. I actually forgot to mention that we have there in the bottom the Q&A part, where you put your questions, which we can ask. In this keynote session, we can have maybe a couple of questions immediately, but otherwise we will come to them at the very last part of this webinar.
Yeah.
At least at the moment, I don't see any questions here. Maybe I can ask that, how do you see the timeline of these changes? What will happen in a very, very near future, and which are more futuristic trends?
Yeah, I think with doing products with all these new materials, that will take a while of developing and so on, but it is happening already. But I think the biggest change is that the customers are changing now. We see it already within fashion industry, that people are buying the stuff that has a good sustainable story around it. At least some people are starting to do that. But this is where I think the change of what people really want is interesting. So question is if we should fill the cars with all the fantastic functions and stuff, or are we heading towards more back to basics and 4 wheels and something that can actually drive you around in a cheap and sustainable way? So I think it's actually 2 tracks. Autonomous cars will of course happen, but then again, I think there's still a need for the basics and the fun of driving.
Very good points, and I think it's also a matter of how do we can we calculate the impact really, or is it just a story behind?
Yeah. Okay, I can see there are questions coming in here now. Should we wait with them, or should I try to answer some of them?
Yes, so there's a question, how
Yeah.
see the dilemma of integrating technology into structures and disassembly easiness.
Yeah, that is of course a dilemma, and we are working a bit with Tech already and have discussed those topics. And I think I already mentioned this last time I was speaking at the Printocent as well, that this will be a topic that is of high interest. But then again, if you can do all the smart intelligence on a single thin piece of something, then that piece of something is maybe what you then could disassemble from the other parts. So maybe it is completely integrated into the part itself, or it is something that is laminated to the part so it's easy to disassemble, or you have materials that you could dissolve in a fairly easy way with some of these biomaterials. You can use industrial grade vinegar more or less to resolve the materials and then separate the electronics and so on. So I think there are solutions to things, and it's great that people are working on it already.
Thank you, Andres, for
Thank
your presentation. We will go now further to pharma industry. Pratik, you are in South Korea, aren't you?
Yes, Kari, and it's almost night here.
Excellent that we have you still presenting here. So please, floor is yours.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone. I hope you're able to see the slides now. I'm Pratik Singh, founder and CEO of FinAdvance, where we are replicating human biology reliably. And the reason why we are doing this is to tackle the current drug discovery process. And in order to understand what's wrong with it, it's working fine. We have the first few vaccines for COVID-19 already in such a short time span. But the challenge which still remains with majority of the drug discovery processes globally is that every single drug which is on the market has taken upwards of $2 billion and has taken more than 10 years to get a single drug commercialized. And it is very rare when drug discovery processes happen at such a rapid pace as we have seen with COVID-19, where we might see some non-significant side effects, which we are still yet to discover more in depth. Now, the unsustainability in this whole process comes due to this very long process using AI modeling, animal models, and then finally into clinical trials. What you can see that the test throughput really drops between the first initial discovery and the clinical testing in the preclinical phases. And the reason is because we still rely a lot on animal models for getting our preclinical data out. So how can we affect or how can we rectify this highly unsustainable business? We have been looking for sustainable alternatives for the preclinical modeling of diseases for drug discovery. We have taken up the challenge for many different organs, but for today, if we focus on the brain, where the blood-brain barrier is very essential in determining how many drugs are actually going from your blood vessels or from your blood to the brain space. Traditionally, in order to replicate this dynamic model, we rely a lot on animals. This is one of the mice we are using in our facility in Oulu to study how many drugs are, or what is the optimum concentration which crosses over from the blood to the brain. The animal model allows us to study the effect of drugs on the blood cells, as well as simultaneously on the brain side as well. What if we could take this animal model and design a platform which allows us to faithfully replicate the microenvironment present in the animal, specifically for the brain region? And then we are able to establish an organ or a disease on a chip, where we are able to make an exact replica of the structure which we see inside the animals and humans as well. In this way, we are able to mimic the existing animal models with our hardware, with our biomimetic organ chips. In this way, we are reducing the use of animals in this preclinical phase, which is a very low throughput and very high risk phase of the whole drug discovery process. In Europe alone, last year, 9.7 million animals were used for this step in the drug discovery process. That's why we have to be very careful that our model is able to replicate quite faithfully the same kind of behavior which is seen in the conventionally used animal models. In this way, we are able to replicate the biotechnological parameters in a sustainable way. We are changing the way how conventional animal modeling and two-dimensional cell cultures, which have been in use for the past 110 years, are now, even though the pharma has been trying, and the pharma is very slow in adopting new changes. Pharma has adopted three-dimensional models to replace some of the animal models, but these models have given the issue that they are not standardized. There is also a big problem in automated quantification using image analysis on these stochastic models. That's where our chip-based models allows for more reliable and consistent modeling of different biological parameters. We are modernizing the 120-year-old biotech industry. In one of our most successful cases, we have generated chips where we mimic the human lung tissue to study COVID-19 variants. And in a typical case where we would model either a single device or even worse, using a single animal to mimic one single experiment, we are able to scale up to more than 300 tests in a single day, which would be unreasonable with any of the animal studies. In a similar way, we are also able to work on different cancers. Here you see a panel of patient-derived kidney tumors, where we are doing patient-specific drug discovery, which is also very, very challenging in existing animal models and very unsustainable. We have also been able to mimic genetic disorders for which a lot of public funding has spent on developing humanized animal models, but still doesn't circumvent the whole issue of involving millions of animals every year for modeling these genetic disorders. In this way, we are able to generate a very long-lasting impact for every drug which is discovered over the next 10 years. It has also already been verified that our technology can lead to more than 25% direct cost savings by replacing most of the animals used in these preclinical studies, and not to mention years of time which will be shaved off of every drug discovery. In summary, the existing clinical models are not sustainable at all. The millions of animals used have a very huge carbon footprint based not only on their own survival, but as well as on the facilities which are used for keeping these animals alive for the duration of the test. We have to employ new technologies like organ-on-chips, which are not regulated so far, but FDA has signed the bill with Congress this year that they are looking for alternative models instead of animals to do at least some of the drug discovery animal-free. And finally, in order to reduce the animal studies, we are working and generating animal organ-on-chips to show direct correlation between the results with this in vitro platform and showing an impact that we can reduce the in vivo studies to some extent. With this background, we envision a very accelerated drug R&D, which will be at some point of time completely animal-free. And this would need world-class organ-on-chips and very highly automated biotech tools. In order to develop the sustainable drug discovery, we also have to employ a wide range of technologies, ranging from bioprinting to different surface chemistries, and to do these things in a rapid fashion. At our company, at FinAdvance, we are a team of 16 people. We are a small startup, 2 years old, where we are enabling sustainable drug discovery with some of the major pharma partners globally. So far, we have been able to model brain tissues, kidney, gut, and lung. And we are aiming to connect these organs to form a miniature human body on a chip, circumventing most of the animal studies which are currently needed for the preclinical studies. And this preclinical drug discovery, not only being unsustainable, it is already a huge market. It's a 15 billion euro market, and more than 10 billion is based on animal studies. Only a small fraction, 6 billion, is currently done in a non-animal based on hardware. And this is something which we are trying to change. In order to get to our vision of getting the first drug for Alzheimer's in a completely animal-free manner, we have put strategic goals for our 2025 vision, where we are developing innovative platforms with top 20 pharmas globally, and we are building a team to achieve this. So far, our vision has been supported by the leading public funders, the European Union and Business Finland, and also with deep tech investors like Voima Ventures and Icebreaker. It is a very challenging way to convince a 100-year-old pharma business to change their methods, because most of these steps are very traditional and the infrastructure has to be really overhauled. But in the long term, we think that our platform technologies and the technologies like ours can really reduce the time from lab to market for the drugs being developed, as well as overcome many of the side effects which we see in many of the approved drugs on the market currently. We are a young, small team at FinAdvance, where we are developing these platform technologies for generating the next sustainable drug on the market. Thank you. And I could take a few questions.
Thank you, Pratik. That was a breathtaking presentation. It almost sounds like a science fiction, but you have really made a huge progress in so short time. When you're talking as a small company and growing very fast, you're talking a lot to the investors. How do they see the sustainability aspects on these discussions and decisions where to invest?
That has been one of the very key points for most of the investors. And EU Commission has funded our projects based on this. The EU Commission has in their guidelines that they would like to replace a certain percentage of preclinical studies with animal-free alternatives. And that's why it is very attractive to, not only from the sustainability aspect, but economically. The cost of the assays, what we are developing, they are 1/10 the cost of existing animal models. So it's economically also favorable for the pharma industry to adopt these alternatives. And thus, the investors also see it as a very, very attractive opportunity to jump in on.
Indeed, and I really truly believe that you can indeed make a big impact and developing these products further.
Okay.
I think there's no more Q&A at the moment, so thank you, Pratik, and let's proceed with the program to the next speaker. So Jan-Mikael Kuusista, are you ready to go for the construction business?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me all right.
We hear you.
Excellent. All right. So yes, those of you who may know me, Jan-Mikael Kuusista, usually here wearing the hat of Invisible, but this time I will be speaking on behalf of VTT. and a spin-out company, the Warming Surfaces Company. This is a company that has not yet been founded, but it is in the VTT Launchpad. It's an accelerator program which helps VTT spin out some of its technologies into new companies. I am working with this team, bringing some of my commercialization expertise from throughout the years. And it's a pleasure to be speaking in this seminar. I had prepared to be there in person. We have exciting samples at VTT Oulu to show and experience. And those of you who are able to come to Oulu to InnoFest, which is taking place the next 2 days, do get in touch with me, and you'll get to feel and see this new technology. But my talk is tackling the residential energy consumption challenge with a large area heat on demand solution developed by VTT. A little bit about the global need and why this really fits with the sustainability theme of today's session is that the world is urgently striving towards fossil fuel-free electricity, transportation, and heating. If only I could recall where I took this quote from, I would gladly quote them, but I want to highlight fossil fuel-free and heating and why this is, from a sustainability standpoint, so critical. Firstly, if we look at the European Union and the energy consumption within residential buildings, you see that 64% of energy consumed in residential facilities goes to heating the space itself. And this is no small factor. In fact, in some of the EU countries, the costs of heating buildings can equate up to 5% of the national GDP. So I'm just showing here the residential building heating, but obviously there is a lot of other spaces that are being heated all the time. And obviously the same is true for many other places on the planet, particularly in the colder climates. Here are USA equivalent numbers. In residential buildings in the USA, 43% of energy consumed goes to space heating. And what's more interesting is if you look at US residential total energy consumption, 42% of that is natural gas and 8% is petroleum. And out of the natural gas, 71% goes to heating. So it's a lot of energy that goes into heating. And as you can see, a lot of that is produced by means that is CO2 generating. Of course, the electricity part of the pie also contains sources of energy that are CO2 producing, but in total, this is a massive source of greenhouse gases. And as you have probably seen in recent news, there are now a lot of initiatives and governmental mandates and incentives emerging that are really focused on this green transition. And it's also touching areas such as the construction industry and buildings and how we heat these spaces. The European Green Deal unveiled its plans Fit for 55 in July. And as a part of those plans, they foresee that there will be a need to renovate 35 million buildings in the EU by 2030. It's creating a lot of jobs. as we do this renovation. But it's not only the EU. EU is striving to be the first and globally leading, setting the path in these developments, but you're also seeing this in the US. Not so much yet at a government level, but on the local level. There are cities, counties, and even states that are now putting a ban on the use of natural gas in the heating of buildings. So this is really a thing that is happening now. And there is a nice fit to what VTT has been working on for the past 2 or 3 years, which is a large area heated surface technology. This technology was originally developed and is being developed for the needs of military decoys to bring thermal fingerprints to large area surfaces. Modern day satellites and drones they not only have the cameras for visually detecting its objects, the targets, but also various sensors, including IR sensors. So VTT has developed this for integration into decoys and saw that there is obviously an opportunity for this technology to also be deployed in different heating functions and applications. So it is a roll-to-roll produced technology. It can be very cost effectively integrated into a wide range of different materials. So far, we've proven different types of plastics, but also, for instance, high pressure laminates. We've been able to take these heating elements inside of a flooring laminate or a furniture laminate, bringing the heating element inside of the laminate material itself. Going further, this heating element is very rapid to use. It's very quick to warm the surface of the material. Very little energy is wasted on heating other structures in the building. Also, the heat can be pixelated. And why that's interesting is that now you can start to control the level of warmth and heat in different locations according to the preferences of the people in those locations, or if you have objects on the floor, what's the sense in heating those objects from the bottom? You can turn the heating off in those locations. So a very versatile technology, no toxic materials, and what's best, there is a transfer process, and the plastic film carrier is taken away and it's not left inside of the structure. So the vision is, in the not so distant future, an interior designer walks into your residence that you want to renovate. And in addition to looking at how the room is, the ambiance of the room, how things in the room should be laid out, this interior designer will be carrying thermal cameras and can start to design heat and heating into those surfaces. So in the future, when you take a thermal camera, there won't be as many cold spots as can be seen in this bottom image. This technology, as said earlier, can be integrated into a wide range of different materials and allows us to bring heat to when and where it's needed, and ultimately with the aim of reducing energy consumption. So VTT is working on an initiative to spin this out at the beginning of next year into a company called the Warming Surfaces Company. And the company will, in this civilian space, look at how to bring heating in a localized manner into various different places. Obviously, starting off with things that are quick to deliver to market, products like furnitures and curtains, but then ultimately also going into laminate structures like floorings, wallpapers, doors, what have you. Wide range of applications. Always a risk for a young company, too many opportunities. But I'm grateful for this opportunity to present this new technology emerging from VTT, and this time in the form of a spin-out company. If you're interested in this, do speak with me or Terho Kololuoma. Terho Kololuoma is the researcher who's been heading these developments. There is an immediate market need. You are all familiar with heated floorings. That is a $5.6 billion market already. But then imagine if that was done more energy efficiently, more cost effectively. And in addition to that, you could also bring heat to all other objects in your living spaces, and all in a manner that reduces energy consumption. With every 1C reduction in heating in a living room, you reduce energy consumption by 5%. So there are massive possibilities in reducing energy consumption, while at the same time maintaining and possibly even increasing the level of living comfort. This company is set to start operating beginning of next year and do its first installations next year. We're looking forward to working with Printocent as we introduce this into the markets. That was an introduction to warming surfaces.
Thank you, Jani-Mika, for very interesting new topic and new solution. And also you are really in a fast track in going towards the markets. So it's not like that you are optimizing the heating, but you can also personalize that, so that it's quite known that each of us is feeling the heat and temperature very personally, and even small differences can make you uncomfortable. And is that also an important factor in discussions?
Yes, so VTT has studied, obviously VTT has a lot of know-how internally in the building and construction space, and has studied how humans feel warmth, heat. The biggest factors to feeling warmth are your metabolism and how you're dressed. But then when looking at how the space is heated, the most energy efficient way to heat and the space and generate the feeling of warmth is through large area heated surfaces. So in combination, most critical is obviously what you're feeling at any given moment. So if you're feeling very hot at a given time, maybe having a technology that is quickly able to bring down the heat a little is preferred. And especially if your spouse at the same time is feeling cold, then let's target more heat into the space where he or she is at any given moment. So it's bringing digitalization in a way to how heat is generated and distributed within our living environments.
Excellent. So now you need to change the lyrics of one called heat is on to heat on demand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Maybe Kari will hear you sing it one day.
I cannot see any other questions for Jani-Mika, so thank you, and let's proceed in our program. And then again, something completely different. We will hit the story, from Jetta Liukkonen from Oikea Design. Please, Jetta, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I will share my screen here first. Okay, can you see me now? Okay, my name is Jetta Liukkonen and I'm one of the moms in Oikea Design Ltd startup company from Oulu and Kuortane here in Finland. I'm telling you a little bit about our own innovation. It's called vaatelastari patch here in Finland. Oikea Design was just chosen to be one of the most interesting companies in the circular economy area in Finland. It was, I think, 2 weeks ago by the Finnish Innovation Fund, Sitra. We are very happy to be among those companies. When you think about repairing and mending, what comes first into your mind is maybe old people, old times, sewing, repairing, torn clothing. And also wearing the patch clothing has been quite embarrassing and clothing have been quite shabby. But during the late times, we have been also become more aware of the global textile waste problem. Every second there goes a truck of textile waste away, and even in Finland, every person wastes 11 kilos textiles every year. It's quite a big problem. And in a small scale, textiles don't last, really. It's okay if you want to have holes, but quite often you don't. Also, sticky stains can be a problem. I show you here our easy repair solution, vaatelastari patch. It's very easy to attach just by rubbing. And what makes our solution so different compared to the other ones is that it's totally customizable, both in material and in print. So we have made this quite much. You just take off, peel of it, put it on. There are trousers here, but it could be whatever, in fact. See here. So, and it's also stretchy. Just 1 or 2 minutes, anytime, anywhere, by anyone. And you can use it already, and it's washable, of course, and dryer safe as well. I was talking about the materials here. We know that one plastic bottle can float even 450 years in the ocean, but we give the bottle waste a new life. One bottle waste turns into one customized rub-on repair patch. And this patch gives garment or gear new life. And it's also recyclable after that. It doesn't damage the textile it's on. And often when you think about repairing as well, you think about, oh, it's just kid stuff. It's for the kids. We don't have kids anymore. We are not in the kids area. Our branch is not for kids. But when you think a little bit further, nowadays, when I was talking about these, when we are working more environmentally, we have these problems. People want to also communicate with patching about their eco-thinking, for example, and patching can be made in a fashionable, or should I say stylish way. It's not like before. Even there was I think S Group made questions, and about 83% of Finnish would be ready to go in repaired clothing. But as you see here, the world is full of textiles. You can see car seats have been used. It's very possible. Our patch has even been used to the bumper in a car and to scratches and lasted over 12 washes by some of our customers. We have made in working clothes, sports, shoes, furniture, animals, clothing, many possibilities. And they don't last. They get stained and teared. And as we know, there is also European Union is now quite aware of this problem. And we have these eco-design and sustainable product directives, which demands companies to take care that their products are repairable and they offer spare parts to the customers. This has, of course, raised interest among our B2B customers. We have sold now around 500,000 patches in these 2 years and are making product development with nearly 30 partners in different industries. Here you see just some of them. Some are already ready and some are not. We are now becoming international as well. And what we were thinking was that we heard about the Levis, Google's trucker jacket, where you can use the device and the one sleeve is totally intelligent. But why a total sleeve? It could be much smaller device attached. We should think a little bit outside of the circle or the square, as you see, and I would be happy to discuss and answer the questions. I didn't have longer presentation than this one. I maybe was waiting if you have some questions, so I would be happy to answer to them more because I come from so different industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jetta, for very visual presentation, giving quite many new type of ideas to us. Since we are looking from the world from the technology point of view, what type of things you would imagine that could be useful for integrating these type of smart patches?
A lot of things. I'm not an expert on this kind of textiles. We have already made some testing here in Oulu, and we have reactive patches being washed already. It could be printed many kind of different things. I think we are going to discuss more about that tomorrow. This is customizable as told in materials, so the material could be very different. We are now using quite much recycled polyester, but we can also use many different materials. We have also wool. And of course, that might be for some solutions to huokoinen, or wonder the name in English. But there are many other solutions also in textiles. Maybe reactive, maybe also design, maybe there are a lot of possibilities, maybe something for kids. Some textiles are also that they are sewed inside or something, but some are also printed over. I hope we are looking for partners in that and already making some testing as told. Also pressure sensitive here, as you see, shoes, sports could be something. And just about, I was thinking about the idea started from the trucker jacket, and there are many different industries who could use this. But
definitely, yes. And as you mentioned, you are there tomorrow on Friday on the Immerfest.
yes.
All technology guys, you can go to Jetta and throw some ideas what quite interesting things could be integrated to this type of patches, whether we're talking about blinking lights or heating elements or whatever. So
Yes,
contact
yes,
and start.
yes. We have a very new type of production line totally here in Finland, and we use sustainable products, sustainable raw materials all the time. But it's also, it's very scalable. We can also test many kind of things. And as told here, we have made now projects through around 30 companies, and quite many are coming out as well. So we are looking for partners in this field to figure out with us what it could be. Also, of course, the washability is often, it's a problem, and the heat itself, but we can do many kind of things.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I don't see any questions in the Q&A part. So thank you, Jetta.
Thank you.
Presentation. See you tomorrow in Innofest, and let's proceed to the last speaker of the keynote session, Antti Keränen from Printocent. Are you ready? We can't hear you.
Okay, I didn't say anything, that's why. So
Now you speak.
I hope you hear me now. So
We will hear you, please.
all right. All right. My name is Antti Keränen, CTO and co-founder of a company called Tech. I'm talking about greener electronics with injection molded structural electronics, IMSE. So first of all, a few words about the company. We spun out from VTT Technical Research Center of Finland 10 years ago. We had our 10-year celebration in June. That was real fun after all this COVID situation. And now we are about 100 people and growing again, back from the COVID pit and everything. Things are running now and getting busy again. Headquartered in Oulu, Finland, sales offices all around the world. And main article of sales of ours is license of the manufacturing technology. We also can manufacture ourselves and do the testing and development, mainly here in headquarters in Oulu. And the main markets are automotive, home appliances, IoT and wearables, industrial technologies, and medical devices, among others. Well-funded company and getting the better numbers every year here. And we have a nice technology ecosystem built up and parts ecosystems emerging also in the marketplace. But then let's go to the topic of structural electronics. So traditional any electronic devices would be components in a box. That means the electronics would be a different entity to the structure of the system, while as in structural electronics, they are not separable. They are same thing basically. And what it allows, so basically when injection molding plastic parts, we include the needed electronic functionality within the mold. So the electronics overmolded and becomes a very integral part of the plastic structure. So simply electronics are inside plastics instead of being a separate box. What you get by this is increased integration level variance with reduced complexity. Why? That is because the appearance is basically made by printing instead of changing different materials and even different form factors. That means different tooling for parts. And the parts are completely they are free-formed 3D parts. That means that instead of getting flat electronics, the electronics can be laid on can be at the end in the 3D plastic part. And now that the components and electronics completely are inside plastic, it's quite obviously and testedly so very reliable and durable and robust. in comparison to traditional one, where the electronics are basically bare on the some kind of printed board inside the box. Okay, what are the main benefits here in a more tangible manner? It is our main example of this is the overhead control panel of a car. You know, the bump in the roof of your car. Every damn car has this bump on top of in the inner side of the roof of a car. You have this kind of control panel there, and it's a big part. It's sometimes a kilo in weight, and very typically they have about 20 different plastic parts. That means different tool sets for every single plastic part, and they would have a lot of electronic parts and sub-assemblies and some printed circuit boards included. Typically 5 centimeters thick and 1 kilo, while a similar thing made by IMSC technology is one part. That means one set of tools and a little PCB to take the control functions. And typically the part would be 3 millimeters thick, as in this example, instead of 5 centimeters. That means a lot of reduction in thickness, and moreover, reduction in mass. That is the first point where we get green. That means we have decreased the use of plastic and actually PCBs for electronics. Very, very important in a very, very big measures there. So this is a first hint for the green future with structural electronics. So we have a complete view about this in sustainability. It starts with design and engineering. Simulation-driven design, less tools and less interfaces in design phase, and obviously optimal material usage in structural electronics. So green starts from there in the process of IMSC part. Then the next one, obviously, materials and components, what I mentioned already. Less plastics, less PCBs. That is a big green aspect there. And then again, manufacturing. IMSE is built upon the paradigm of additive manufacturing. That means that we avoid using reductive methods like in electronics industry in almost all cases, where you actually have the complete PCBs with copper layers, and you reduce the copper in order to get the wiring there. So we don't employ that kind of wet processes, and that is another CO2 burden decreasing factor there. And then going further with our material suppliers, cooperation with material suppliers and others to get the IMSC technology work with recycled materials and biomaterials and so on. So in plastics, it's very typical to reduce plastics about 50% up to 80%, depending on the product, if you compare with a similar product done with traditional manners. And then, as I mentioned, the manufacturing process is greener than the usual traditional ones. And here you have the total picture of the greenhouse gas emissions in IMSC in comparison to traditional reference part. The biggest part of the CO2 burden is actually coming from electronics in both cases, which is reduced moving from traditional to IMSE. Material production, less plastics basically, that gives another good impact. And then again, manufacturing, and plus that also the usage in the lifetime of the part reduces CO2 emissions when you can make more light devices, especially in automotive and aviation. The mass of the part, when the device is lighter than it used to be, that is an environment benefit also. So the total picture of IMSE part life cycle, we have first less materials, and fewer working steps and fewer tools in manufacture. And during the use, the reduced mass reduces CO2 emissions. And then in end of life, again, less materials. It's easier to separate and identify the materials there. But then now the important part, as I have told, the current benefits what we have there, those are very good points of environmental benefits what we carry already there. But yet we are following closely and actually actively participating in studies and research in, especially in a most important part of circular economy, when you can really collect the materials and reuse those. And now it doesn't happen very well in, well, almost all industries which have plastic and electronics. It doesn't happen yet very well, but these are developing phase in many parties. First of all, metal recovery from the used parts and the plastic feedstock recovery. Then the optimal scenario will be fulfilled. While as now most of this kind of control panels and all the parts what we can make by IMSE are mostly burned for energy recovery. Let's go further about the future scenario there. And we are studying the different material streams there. And there is technologies or emerging technologies to separate. The big question for this kind of structural electronics is that while electronics are within the plastic, it's not easy to separate the electronics from there. So the different methods for this separation is under studies with many parties, and we are actively participating in that. Now that when the wires are actually made by using silver pastes, the silver itself, it's a very, very important part of recycling, and that can be recovered by combustion methods and recollecting the silver from there, which applies to rare metals used in components as well. And then for example, polycarbonate is probably the most popular plastic used in high quality appearance parts such as control panels within cars, which are really the ones which are closest to the user eyes. The secondary material, there is no secondary material market for polycarbonate as of now, and that is emerging. And then we have to get into use the new methods to separate the materials while the electronics are molded within the plastic parts. So basically that was all what I have today, and the questions are very welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Antti. It's really nice to see some concrete examples on the comparison of how this new structural electronics can save the weight and space, and also real calculated measurable results on the comparison. I think one area you a little bit mentioned is that it's really that the lighter the structures are, the sort of more the impact will be when this vehicle is in use. So the more this new vehicle compared to the traditional one is in the use, the more the impact will be. Isn't that so?
Absolutely so. And then these kind of benefits really come. They are state of the art. They are not future things, but state of the art when you just shave the materials what you are using. And that is the main asset of ours, even though it is there already, even though the recycling of the materials is in fancy for everything, not to speak about IMSE itself, but we already reduce the use of petrochemical materials and PCBs and all those which are heavy burden to environment. And then when you have many of these parts or big parts like car bumpers, maybe doors and so, and they include the needed electronics functionality by themselves instead of separate assemblies, then that should be quite obvious that the weight is reduced and that reduces the pollution during the use and lifetime of a part.
Yes. There's one question in the Q&A. Jarmo Petä is asking, can you use bio-based plastics in injection molding?
Yes, there's bio-based materials there, and we are following the development. But yet, there's important challenges for us in the form like this, that most of the applications asked by the customers from us, they include the use of lights within the part. Well, that means the IMC part itself is a light guide, and that in the other hand means that it must be clear, optically clear material in most cases what we face with customers, and then it's very, very challenging to make optically very clear materials with bio-based, but that is not all. There's some parts which include sections which not need to be that in that way. And in more general, I would answer that IMS is basically usable with any thermoplastics. So bio-based is obviously included, and then it always needs just some studies in order to make the whole material stack work together. So not all materials fit together. Now that we have the substrate materials, we have different inks, we have electronics components there, and molded plastic in a monolithic structure, and those materials must stick together very well in order to make a reliable product. So, but the answer is that for bio-based plastics that can be used. And the disclaimer is that nothing can be used before it's tested and verified, and that's the work what we do.
Absolutely. So you can also throw the ball back to the material developers that they have
Yes.
to improving the optical characteristics like the transparency and haze.
Yes.
At the same time, also take care about the compatibility with other
Yes.
manufacturing processes.
Indeed.
Excellent. I would like to still, you mentioned this design for recyclability. So how to take these things already into account in the design phase? You have with the integration already extra challenge in the design tools and methodologies. How do you see, how difficult it is to integrate the sustainability design aspects to the current design tools and the material databases?
It's actually the material database what we are talking about here. While when we start with the thought that electronics is inside plastics, that's a challenge for recycling already, and it doesn't usually go away when the customer needs the unique benefits what we have, and they are the benefits which are brought in by putting the electronics inside the plastic. So the separation of this, it's very important course of development globally, that how can one separate different chemical and mechanical methods, better separation of the materials. That includes all the plastic parts which are not homogeneous in materials. So that means things which you have, instead of only clear plastic, you have different plastic materials. You have the printing colors, you have the silver paste and all those within the part. The separation is the big question there at the end. But the bioplastics coming in, and that makes things easier also, together with the new separation methods.
Excellent. I think we have covered now all the questions with excellent answers. Thank you, Antti, for your really interesting presentation. And at the same time, I also want to thank you all the keynote speakers with really interesting topics, and also that you were excellently in time. So now we have 15 minutes break, and then we start the second part of the webinar. So please, you can send questions to the Q&A part also during the break, during the next presentations, and then we will touch them and answer at the end of this webinar. So please have a nice break, and we will come back at 2:45. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Hello, everybody again. Back from the pause. Let's start again with the second part of the Sustainable World with Printed Intelligence Products seminar. Next, we are going to have presentations from various product and component and manufacturing service companies. First, Raimo Korhonen from Iskent will highlight sustainability issues in packaging industry. Then we go to the displays by Petteri Strömberg from Invisible, and then Eero Kaikkonen from MoveSol will be telling us about health monitoring. Next, Antti Backman from New Cable Corporation about drastic reduction of cable materials. And then Neil Schwesser from Optitune will tell about durable surfaces. And finally, Liisa Hakola from VTT will tell about the recent developments in sustainability research and what to do together. Unfortunately, Pekka Makkonen from FlexBrite is currently in Dubai making the installation for the Dubai Expo Finnish pavilion there just now, and couldn't participate and give his presentation. So let's do so that we have 1 more minute for each speaker, so 7 minutes, and then we will have the Q&A after the whole session for all the speakers. So Raimo, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I start to share my screen.
Perfect. Please go on.
Okay, I hope you see my screen.
We see your slides. Maybe you can change.
Yeah. Now
you are in presentation mode. Excellent. So please go on.
So I will tell about some sustainability issues in case of Iskent. And basically at Iskent we are patterning surfaces, nano and micro patterning the surfaces. So we create colors, patterns, functions by adding no material. And so the principle of our process you see on the left-hand side. Basically, we are moving paper or plastic web through a couple of rolls, and there are some micro and nano patterns on the surface of the embossed roll, and with heat and pressure, we transfer those patterns on the surface of the web. On the right-hand side, you see image of our process, and you see some water droplets, and actually they are not real water droplets, but they are nano patterns on a transparent foil that are creating the illusion of water droplets. And we are utilizing Finnish paper machine know-how in our process. So in paper machines, paper calendars, they are smoothing the surface of the paper by heat and pressure. They are very wide machines, 10 meters wide, 2000 meters per minute. So we have been scaling down to our process around 1 meter wide is our process, and speed 300 meters per minute. And one market segment is packaging, where we make decorative or surfaces or some images for authentication purposes. And because packaging is a huge market, $1 trillion market, there are a lot of sustainability issues in packaging, and everybody wants to reduce the amount of material that is used. So our process is very natural for this type of markets. And one important thing in case of packaging is the reduction of plastics. And if you look at a typical cardboard package on the left-hand side, you see I have opened that package. So there's a cardboard, but then there is a laminated plastic foil that has holograms, and then it's vacuum coated by aluminum and overprinted. And now these big brands, they want to get rid of that plastic on that package, and what we can provide is holographic paper that has metallizing but no plastics, and that holographic effect on the paper. We are also participating VTT-led ecotronics project, where bio-based materials are studied, and we have been testing in our process these materials. And VTT has provided us some commercial materials like Nature Flex, it's commercial foil, it's compostable foil, and even compostable in the ocean, so that there's no microplastics left in oceans with this type of materials. And then VTT has also made themselves some foils based on different materials like Celidor, Durabio, Woodley, and we have been testing those. And it seems that we have been successful in some materials, and some materials are not thermoformable. And in also ecotronics project, we have been testing some paper barriers from Arjuvik in Stora, and so that we have been able to form in nanoscale. So this is encouraging for us, because a lot of our customers, they are asking about bio-based materials nowadays. What we also see outside of packaging is that there are more and more research to replace chemicals by nano and micro patterning to create surfaces with functional properties, self-cleaning, antibacterial, low friction. And we are approached by researchers and startup companies, and they might have some small piece of the master, 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Then they ask us that how to scale it up. And we are providing nowadays upscaling services. So with that 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter master, we can weld it, laser weld it to a bigger plate, and use that in our laboratory machine. That's 20 centimeters wide machine, and we can use rolls or sheets of substrate material to test different patterns, to test different substrates. And when we are happy of the result, then we can go to our pilot machine for searching process parameters. The pilot machine is also 20 centimeters wide, but it can run 120 meters per minute, or it can run very slow. So both are possible. And finally, we can go to our production machine to make a large-scale production tests and produce marketing material and even to make full production to our customers. But finally, typically, our customers, they are thinking about their own machine, and we can provide custom designed machine for that specific purpose. And many times our customers are testing and analyzing results in the laboratory, but microscopic analysis. But we are also developing in Eurostar project this kind of spectrographic imaging with the Danish National Meteorology Institute. So the idea here is that with this kind of imaging, we can get the depth of the structure, so that typically it's around 200 nanometers, the depth of structures, and with this type of system we can measure the depth and get the real-time feedback to our process. Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Raimo, for highlighting the packaging industry and looking for new materials. We will take the questions, answers at the end of the session. So please, let's go on and go to Petteri Strömberg from Invisible. Thank you, Raimo.
Thank you.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope my slides are showing in.
We see you. If you can change the presentation mode.
There we go.
Excellent.
All right, thank you. I'm running the show. I'm struggling, struggling with the technology. All right. I'm happy to be here talking on behalf of Invisible and talking about electrochromic displays. So what we do is that we print these kind of let's say, determined segmented displays on different substrates. And here in this opening slide are actually the only product pictures that you are going to see during this presentation, so pay attention at the moment. So I'm a simple man, so I'll keep this fairly simple, and I'm looking forward to the questions whenever you have those at the end of all the presentations. So what we do is this ultra low power segmented displays, and these can be easily tailored into different end application needs. So it's a electrochromic printed, screen printed technology. It's reflected and usually can be used as segmented display, your regular 7-segment display, or different type of icons showing, let's say, fairly simplified things. So by no means are we talking about a mobile phone display or anything of that nature. Here's a little bit of slide of what our, let's say, displays are ideal for. So displays for icon displays or segmented, monochrome colors, activations every minute or less frequent. So if you need to have really fast refresh rate, that's not necessarily ideal for us. If you have low budget, so these are fairly cost efficient from a total cost viewpoint for the product, and these are thin and flexible displays. So here's a little description of the structure. So we have different printed layers in our display, and as mentioned, done in that traditional screen printing methodology. And then we have couple of substrates or barriers laminated to the display structure. If we think about one of the benefits of our displays, it's that they are very low from the power hungriness or power thirst viewpoint. So low energy displays. Obviously, nothing is ideal for each and every application. But if we think about our displays, if you look at refresh rates on a daily basis, for example, from 400 to 600 refresh rates, and you compare it to electrophoretic or reflective LCD displays, that's where our displays really are, let's say, more energy efficient. So if we think about LCD displays on a refresh, one refresh or something like that, our display uses maybe about 7 times less power than LCD. And the one thing that makes these displays also energy efficient is the bistability of the display. So essentially, what this means that once you activate the graphics on the display, it does not need continuous power or continuous refreshing to keep the image visible. So the refresh may need to be done maybe every 15 minutes or even on hourly basis. And the other thing is that so very low energy, low voltage needed, which enables the use of different new technologies, power technologies or energy harvesting technologies, which necessarily are not that the capacity is not as high as we, for example, would think about coin cell batteries or AA batteries or something like that. But on the other hand, are more flat, flexible, etc., which then combined with these kind of displays allow new applications and new end use markets for the display. So the flexibility, I've been yapping about it already quite a few times. So our display is very thin, less than 300 microns, flexible. You can bend it as low as 10 millimeter radius, and it's customizable. So even if it's monocolor, we can use different colors in it. We can do different shapes for the product also. And what this obviously helps is that it will allow you to invent and figure out new ways of putting displays on different everyday items. And now if you think about these everyday items, we are talking about maybe personal devices, simple diagnostic things, anything of that nature. And in this IoT world, which is, well, obviously one terminology term that has been used a lot, is that the devices are always talking and maybe communicating between each other. But truly one thing that still is needed is that visual identifier that will show the consumer everyday Joe, Matti Meikäläinen, whoever, that there might be some kind of call to action, something needs to be done or something has happened with the device and you need to do something. So you don't need to necessarily take your mobile phone every single time and use the NFC interface or for example, check the wireless connection or something of that nature.
30 seconds.
Boom. And cost effective we are doing traditional printing technology and easy to integrate with all kinds of different end-use methodologies. And one thing that we need to bring up is the common electronic platform. So we are looking into using cellulose-based, fully printed systems, and this is with the in-paper project, printed batteries, displays, sensors, and antennas. And here's still in short the few key words from this presentation. Sorry about pushing the limit, Kari. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Petteri, for interesting low power functionality, giving added value to different applications. All right, let's move further. Next, Eero Kaikkonen from Muusol will go to the health-related things. Please, Eero, are you ready?
Yes. Oh, yeah, yes, I am. Oops. Can you see my slides?
Yes, we do.
Okay, good. Excellent. So, hey, good afternoon on my behalf. So I'm from the Muusol, and the headline of the presentation was the laboratory level measurement in your everyday living. And since the big subject was the sustainability, I was a little bit thinking about what it really means. And when we speak about the sustainability, we a lot of times speak about energy, heating, the environment, the traffic, the living meaning the housing and stuff like that. And somehow, sometimes feels that the healthcare and social services and health services is kind of separate island. And knowing that in Finland, in Europe, and in the Western countries, the public sector spend half of the money in the healthcare. We can't speak about the sustainability without thinking about what it means in the healthcare, basically. And the truth is that we have built a system in Western countries so that the cost of our healthcare and social services is too high. We can't afford to have it like that. And the question is, how do we change it so that we get better results with less money? And in fact, while doing that, we have to think about the sustainability in healthcare as well. And so the question is that we have been building hospitals, clinics, we have been building walls, and then we kind of made people to go to those buildings, and they have been built for treating the diseases. And we should get more towards thinking that instead of treating the diseases, we should be preventing the diseases. So help people in their everyday life, measure them in their everyday life so that we can help people stay more healthy with less cost. And I tell you my story about what we have done in Muusol on that area. So we have been now working 7 years of building smart insoles. And so what we have been doing is that we are in the business of gait analysis, so which is kind of analyze how you walk. And that is how we walk is affecting to very many things on our health. And on the other way, we can see a lot of our health situation by measuring and analyzing how we walk. And you can use that data of what you get from analyzing the walking, of course, when in the case of the rehabilitation, if something has happened to you, accident or whatever. But more and more, the focus has been also in the gait analysis to try to prevent things happening. So you don't exercise wrongly, or you don't exercise too much, or you don't exercise too little, or whatever. But basically, to get the data, the objective data about what happens to you, so that we can prevent any accident, any bad things happens to you. And if you think how it's done so far, the most of the physiotherapists that are taking, if you have like a pain in the back, if you have problems in your walking, whatever there is, the physiotherapists typically say the first thing they say to you, so get up and walk a little bit, and I see how you are walking. And they are pretty good at it. They see by their eyes quite a lot. But they all agree as well that if they get the objective data of your walking and they understand it better, and especially if you think like treating the patient, so that when you meet him next time, maybe a month or 2 months, it's really difficult to remember what happened last time. But once you have the objective data, you can compare, how you are how your rehabilitation is progressing or what has been the changes, what has happened there. So objective data is really a key in the gait analysis. And in Lara, we have been thinking from the day one that we need to build a tools that enables the mobile and measurement of the gait analysis or gait or walking where it happens normally. So instead of going to laboratory and taking 10 steps, we measure you where you normally go, whether it's running, whether it's living at your home, or whether it's what you're doing in the work or wherever. We want to be there and measure you in your everyday circumstances. And for that, we have built a tool, and that's why we speak. We have been now validated by external universities, and we can now proudly say that we can provide a laboratory level measurements. We have integrated two tools, so pressure mats and force plates into one insoles, and then there is of course the application which shows the results. But by doing that, we have kind of built easy platform that can be, taken by the physiotherapist or even sent to your home, and you can walk there as a patient, and then they send the results back to your physiotherapist, so that this kind of distant treatment is even possible, which is from the sustainability point of view as well, because less moving the people, but rather measuring the people in their everyday life, and just move the tools to the homes and wherever they go. So our kind of thinking has been from the day one, and the gait and motion measurements is done where and whenever it's needed, not in the laboratory that's doing, and that's what the most Woosol products are all about. And in that, I kind of end my presentation. So thank you, and looking for the questions in the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Eero. And thank you also pointing out that the sustainability have also the third pillar, which is the social sustainability. And this really highlights the importance of that as well. Next, we go to the worlds of cables. Antti Backman from New Cable Corporation. Are you ready? Antti, can you hear us? I think you're still muted.
How about now?
Now we can hear you.
Oh, perfect. There are, in this user interface, there are so many buttons where I'm stated as a mute, and then it was the only button that worked.
Excellent.
Finding the right one. Strange. I wonder. Okay, and I can open up the video. You can see me, I hope.
We can see you. And
okay, and then there is the button in the middle, share the screen. Perfect.
are you going to tell us that best cable is less cable?
Yeah, it is about that. And wait a second, I try to figure it out if I do it in presentation.
No, it's fine. Okay, go on.
Did you see the whole presentation or just one sector of the upper right hand?
A full screen of your one first slide.
Perfect, because it shows me that it's only a part of it, but it's maybe this is a Zoom experience. Yeah, my name is Antti Backman. I am the Chief Design Officer at New Cable Corporation. And I'm about to tell you about these very thin and flexible cables. We are a startup, started 2016, yet we are a small company. We are a huge company in terms that we have production partners all around the world. And if there is some industry, let's say a vehicle industry in some part of the world, and they are questioning that, okay, startup, can they really produce to our needs? And we can say yes, and even to other manufacturers. So it's not the scaling up is no problem for us. And as it says there, up to 90%, that is a lot, especially when we head to the aviation. Here you can see the comparison of similarly performing cables. It was a multi-core cable, shielded flat flexible cable, SFFC. It is much less material consumption than the round shielded multi-core cable. So you can see that the difference is really huge. And what we can do, and of course how it is possible that we can do things like this, layer by layer. Here you can see the cross section of our cable. It is we have a substrate, we have the conductors, shields, insulators, and this is kind of a nice thing. It's probably a kind of a candy for an engineer, but a horror movie for an economist, as we can change everything. So we really can change the materials there. We can make thin, we can make thicker. We can actually adjust even the signal traces and how the signals behave in the cable. So that is something that the normal round cables or cable manufacturers can do that easily. And when it comes to the sustainability, the impact, if we think raw materials, you saw the pillars in one of the previous slides. We need less material. We need only a bit of material in order to make the same performance, and that has an impact. So the mining truck there moving copper or other materials, only few journeys are enough to deliver that material. But then again, if we think the logistics, even in that, it has an impact. And when it goes to the manufacturing and handling it there, the less material is used. It's always lighter to use in energy efficiency. And there's a huge impact in there. And again, assembly, logistics. And we think about the end use, like the mining truck. It has normally something like 300 kilos of cables, and we switch it and it's 40 kilos of cables, and it makes, let's say, 1,000 journeys, and it can carry out that 250 kilos more payload every journey, and it operates 1,000 times. You can multiply how much more that mining truck can really move the material only by changing the cables to flat ones. And you can imagine the impact in aviation. It's really a huge thing. We did suffer a bit hit in that sector due to the pandemic. And when we go to the, still back to the end use, if we think about personal cars, like Geely manufactured, the fuel or energy save is not that much per car, but if we are producing million or 10 million cars, then the whole impact is really huge. And reuse, recycling, there it is of course less material to be recycled, but reuse is under research. And actually we participated this kind of ecotronics project led by the VTT here in Finland. And we have learned a lot of more things about our cables during this few years project. And there is coming a webinar or conference, virtual conference in October. Maybe you can, organizers, point that out, that when it is and how to participate it. I will probably change some slides from this presentation to that, but if you want to know more about that project, you are more than welcome to join. And then few nice pictures what we can do. I love the wrap around antenna array. As we know, that 5G is nowadays almost everywhere, only in the city centers mainly. But these poles that hold the antennas, they are really bending due to the heavy weight of the 5G antennas. And So why not to do it in printed electronics and wrap it around the antenna pole? So it's always a question that how to do it, and when the guy goes up there in the pole, it's much lighter to carry on that light antenna structure than the whole kind of a big box you see there in the below. And this other picture is, as we know, the world is electrifying, all electric vehicles around. There is a battery stack. The normal way is to use a rigid PCB there and put the very thick cables. And you have seen the car pictures where it's orange cables going through. And what we can do the whole set, integrate everything, the cable and the electronics on the same set and bolt it on. And we save a lot of weight, again, a lot of weight. So it's only a matter of money in these manufacturers, vehicle manufacturers and everywhere else, that the change is big, but it is doable, and it is really ready technology that is available, but it's only lack of money or willingness, or, you know, we can save the world, but how does they think? That is the problem we see. Thank you.
Thank you, Antti. Very nice example how with the quite simple things you can really save a lot of material in various applications. All right, let's go further. So next we hear about service durability from Optitune by Neil Schweizer. If I can't probably pronounce it correctly, so Neil, you can correct me. Are you?
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Neil.
Okay, let me share my screen. Thank you. Yes, my name is Neil Pashir, and yeah, I'm working at Optitune. I'd like to spend the next few minutes telling you about our surface coatings and how this links to sustainability. So yeah, we're on a mission at Optitune to completely control, or at least drastically reduce, reflection on glass surfaces such as displays, and eliminate surface degradation. So you can see our product has a kind of twofold value proposition, and it begins with optics. So on the left-hand side, you see a lot of displays common in our lives today. We want to make these displays easier to read, make them brighter, you know, free of fingerprints, and also, you know, reduce the power consumption needed by making these screens, you know, with higher transmission and less reflections. But not only the displays, we also want to improve the surface durability and extend the product lifetimes of such devices by coating the exterior of these, for example, notebooks, not only the electronic displays, but also in the home. And on the right-hand side, you see a lot of applications where our products can go, for example, into kitchens, where, you know, we want to keep these surfaces clean. We want to keep the appliances looking new, free of scratches and fingerprints and stains, and, you know, even stains that can be generated inside of, you know, ovens at high temperatures. So we want to, you know, extend the lifetime and durability of all of these products. So a little bit about Optitune as a company and our polysiloxane technology. We're founded in 2003, located in Oulu, currently around 22 employees. And we spent, you know, quite a lot of time and money, you know, developing a patent portfolio and a very robust polysiloxane coating technology that is, by the way, very easily scaled from the lab into production, you know, commercial quantities, which makes the kind of qualification process, you know, much easier. And the polysiloxane technology maybe has, you know, many advantages, and one of which, it starts with being very robust. And if you see this picture on the right-hand side here, at the right-hand side here, we've coated the left-hand side of this substrate with our coating, no coating on the right-hand side. And when scratching with steel wool, you can see that the coated part doesn't scratch. So it starts with, you know, abrasion resistance and hardness, but also goes into, you know, light management, very high transmission, being very robust against chemicals, and also very flexible. So there's a lot of different aspects to this coating. We're currently transitioning from a profitable service business into a scalable products business. We were very proud that Merck selected our technology last year and has become our exclusive distributor, taking the materials that we develop and produce into the market, targeting applications like foldable mobile phones. And we recently completed a funding round. We're investing a lot of this money into R&D and also into customer qualifications. So to touch on sustainability and how this relates to our products, I think there's two ways that our products directly affect this. First of all, it's extending the useful lifetime of devices. In 2019, you see here 53 million metric tons of electronic waste produced. And by extending the lifetime and useful lifetime of these devices, we can make a contribution there. And then also on the display side, as displays become, higher and higher resolution, like 8K, they require more backlights, more LEDs, and then the aperture ratios are reduced, and this leads to higher energy consumption. So by making, highly transmission and anti-reflective displays, we can make a strong contribution there. And of course, we've been working with the latest ISO standards and quality management and environmental management systems since 2016. Practice responsible supply chain production. We're constantly looking for ways to reduce our carbon footprints, whether it's the amount of packaging we use to ship out our materials, or changing to low VOC solvents, and everything along these lines we're constantly looking at, and we're a proud participant in the United Nations Global Compact, focusing especially on affordable and clean energy and responsible consumption and production. Switching briefly to the products, I've already kind of mentioned, metal and glass coatings, plastic coatings. This is all about, surface protection, with ultra thin coatings that you cannot, see. And, some consumer electronics, home appliances. We'll come to a minute to the foldable phones for the plastics, but also automotive displays. And then we have light management, and these coatings can be applied on the outside or on the inside of devices, displays, for example, but also on solar cells to make solar cells more efficient. And also inside of devices like facial recognition, fingerprint sensors, and automotive sensors, which are becoming more and more important now with autonomous driving. We can make all of these sensors more, basically more powerful, more accurate by applying anti-reflective, high transmissive coatings to them. And then we have the optoelectronics portfolio, which is basically photopatternable dielectric materials used inside of touch panel devices. And I'll quickly just touch on two of these applications on the next two slides. The metal and glass coatings, keep surfaces clean. This is based on hydrophobic and oleophobic properties. So if you see here on the right-hand side, you can see that we have, let me see if it's gonna, oh, you can see the high water contact angle for the water droplet, and on the coated side. And this keeps the surfaces also looking quite smooth, and also helps for the scratch resistance. And two reasons that our product especially stands out, there are other anti-fingerprint type coatings on the market. One is that it has extremely strong adhesion to metal. And by doing this, we don't need any primer as some of the other materials might need. And this is kind of the basis for why the material is so strong in abrasion. And I think here you'll see, for example, with this coffee stain here, how it kind of beads up on the right-hand side, and then it's easily removed, as a kind of a tribute to the hydrophobic ability there. And the second strong value proposition is the high thermal stability. So we can really withstand temperatures up to 350 degrees, making these coatings, possible to be coated on stoves and inside of ovens and other high temperature applications. And switching to a totally different application, I think everyone's familiar with these new foldable phones with beautiful designs that have recently came out. But they're also very, very expensive. I think, between 1,500 and 2,000 euros for these devices. And the screens, based on plastic, are still very easily scratched, and it's a shame to buy something so expensive and have it ruined a few days later. And a lot of this money, and the bill of material goes into the cover lens, which you can see is quite complex. UTG stands for ultra thin glass, which is then surrounded by either PET or colorless polyimide. And then you need a coating like our flex fold coating on the outside that's going to keep the surface scratch resistant and free of fingerprints, for example. And our OptiTune flex fold has really very strong abrasion. We hear that it's up to 3 times stronger than the competitor type materials, excellent optics, chemical and temperature reliability, 85, humidity, high temperature testing. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, how we test also very low bending radiuses that are required for these foldable devices, which pass over 200,000 cycles. And in collaboration with the VTT, we've established a very reliable coating process on their roll-to-roll maxi line. And we have a good collaboration with them. And we're hoping to bring this product soon to the market. And last but not least, a sustainable future also means, unfortunately, as we see recently, living with bacteria and with viruses. And our goal is to add antimicrobial functionality into our robust coatings. And this coating should last the lifetime of the product. This is nothing that we want people to be spraying on every couple of years, but something that'll really last for 10 years or longer. And right now we're working together with the University of Vascula, hope I pronounced that correctly, testing the antibacterial properties. And we're soon going to begin testing also enveloped viruses, such as coronaviruses like COVID-19. And we think this would be a great added value to our coatings and to sustainability in general. So that's all I had to share today. And hope I was okay on time.
Thank you, Neil. Very interesting things you have shown and interesting results what can be done with just the coatings on everyday life object to make them last longer and increase the sustainability. Thank you very much. And now it's time for the last presentation today from Liisa Hakola from VTT, telling about the sustainability research and what could we do together in future. So Liisa, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. I guess you can see the slides and hear my voice.
You can hear and see clear and loud, please.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a senior scientist at VTT working in Kari's research area. So focusing a lot on printed electronics, but in recent years at VTT, we have realized that we have to take the environmental footprint of electronics and consider how to make the footprint as small as possible. And that, of course, means that we have to increase the sustainability of electronics. And here are some ways how the electronics industry could address the sustainability and decrease its environmental burden. So, of course, shifting from the fossil-based materials more into use of bio-based materials, that is, of course, important because we could rely more on the renewables and not on the materials that we might run out at some point in the future. And that, of course, means we want to decrease the use of metals, and especially certain metals that are not environmentally very good. Another option is to use eco-design concepts. So basically that, of course, means using renewable materials, but it also means that we try to minimize the use of materials and energy throughout the life cycle of electronic products. So not just during manufacturing, but also during use phase and during waste management. And of course, minimizing the waste is important. And through eco-design, we can also design the electronics in a way that recycling is made easier. in sort of a design for circularity way. And of course, one option is to use printing-based additive manufacturing processes that themselves are quite energy and material efficient processes. And another benefit is that there are no etching chemicals that are actually quite a large environmental burden in traditional electronics manufacturing. But then again, if we think about printed electronics, the materials that are mostly used today, like printing silver on PET substrate, so those are not environmentally ideal materials, so there is also material development needs in printed electronics, although the method itself is a bit better than the traditional methods. And of course, at VTT, we want to tackle these sustainability requirements by combining our expertise in bio-based materials and in printed and hybrid electronics. And of course, then we gain the benefits that I already listed in the previous slide. But ultimately, our goal is that we could implement the bio-based materials as a new normal for electronics industry, and in that way to make the industry more renewable also here. And here are some examples, the kind of sustainable electronic solutions that we have demonstrated at VTT. So of course, we have done quite a lot of work on the substrates. And since we are from Finland, paper has been quite important new type of substrate for electronics. But we also have had activities for bioplastic materials like the boat demonstrator at the bottom of the slide. So not just paper, but also bioplastics and other bio-based materials are feasible for electronics. But then again, the substrate is not enough. We have to think about also the other materials, like the conductive materials. And here is one example, is using graphene as the conductive material instead of silver or copper that are environmentally not that good. And yeah, we have developed quite many demonstrators. We have done demonstrators for intelligent packaging, for example, different type of sensors for environmental monitoring. We have taken a look at the biodegradable possibilities. Could electronics be left in the natural environment after use? So those kind of solutions, in addition to recycling electronics. And then one, of course, quite challenging task is also to make the batteries more environmentally compatible, and there is a lot of activities going on even at the moment. So if you want to collaborate with VTT in this area, of course you can collaborate in many other areas naturally, but specifically for the sustainable electronics area, there are a lot of possibilities. The EU funding, for example, that's quite strongly built around a Green Deal and climate objectives at the moment. The Horizon Europe call has many work programs and topics that are targeted for sustainable electronics also. And then also the KDT program that is hopefully starting soon. For that, we are already preparing a proposal about the sustainable and green electronics. We already have a quite nice consortium in place, but if you are interested, we are happy to get new partners also. And then in the Finnish side, there are also collaboration opportunities. We are planning a new Business Finland co-innovation project called Recotronics. So that's the next phase for ecotronics. And of course, this is primarily targeted for the Finnish industry, but also industry outside Finland has a possibility to join in a bit different way than the Finnish industry, but that's also possible. And then of course Business Finland has these other programs that we could also consider collaboration there. And if you don't like public funding, we can of course do direct contract work with industrial companies all over the world. So here are some examples what kind of work we could do. We could tailor the process or the materials, look into eco-design and design demonstrators and characterize the devices, and then also carry out sustainability assessment, life cycle assessment and recyclability studies. So that was briefly about the kind of research we are now carrying out in Finland and what kind of research we are also planning to do. And actually, if you are interested in the topic, you are welcome to hear more in approximately 1 month. So Antti already mentioned in his presentation that there is this online seminar coming. So here is the direct link, but if you are not able to write it down now, you can of course email me and I will send you the details. But thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And indeed, if you have some ideas for needs for collaboration, so don't hesitate to contact Lisa in this subject after the seminar as well. So we have heard the presentation. I think it's a time now to have a look. I think it's now a good chance to use the Q&A section there. If you have any questions you would like to raise for any of the presentations, so don't hesitate to put anything. Or if the presenters have something to ask other ones, you can even open your mic and ask yourself. I think we have had really excellent presentations since it's been clear to all, not much comments, but that's fine, that's fine. Okay, I think we can then proceed further. So if I summarize a little bit what we heard today and what we maybe learned, new things, I think the presenters today showed very well that the sustainability is really quite large thing and can really have a different kind of impact. Not only the environmental impact, which is maybe most in the top priority in the talking about sustainability, but also that it's important to think about also healthcare related aspects to be part of the sustainable world. And also when we are talking about companies and making business, it's important that the companies will take and look how the sustainability can, how they can improve the sustainability in their own actions and business, but also how to make the future products and services more sustainable. We thought about a lot that we need to take this sustainability already into account in the design phase, which means that probably I have to also develop further the design tools, material databases, life cycle analysis tools to really be able to compare in the design table which solutions, which designs are indeed more sustainable. I think this is important aspect. We discussed also a lot about the recycling, how to make things easy to disassemble, how does it impact if we use integration technologies, how does it impact to the disassembly. So there is issues that needs to be better justified and explained what it really means. Then I think what we noticed from many talks that we still need a lot of development also in the materials to make them more sustainable. For example, to improve the optical qualities of the bio-based plastics when using them as light guides, or how to replace silver, for example, with other materials, but to also to retain the performance needed for them. So there's a lot of work needed in the material still in the future. And I think also so by Andreas and Jetta that sustainability can be also stylish. So if you use it correctly, there can be a very nice, appealing things and new designs, new habits, which can be adopted and still making things more sustainable. Let me see if there's one question in the Q&A. Will the video of the speeches be available online? Yes, it will be. We will inform the time schedule of that later on for the participants. But yes, you will find it in online later on. Okay. Still room for questions. Meanwhile, I would like to promote that please go to the Printocent web pages. There you can find and download own copy for the Printocent handbook to learn printed intelligent technologies and opportunities there in a very detailed manner. And also we have published a public version of our Printocent industrial roadmap, which can be also found in the link. If you have any problems to reach these documents, don't hesitate to contact us, me or Satu or Soile. And also I want to promote that let's put a placeholder in your calendar for next January 26th, 27th, so that we can see you on next Prince seminar and continue with nice presentations and hopefully finally a face-to-face interaction with colleagues, partners, and customers. So if you don't have any more questions, or is any of the presenters want to say something before we stop?
I can maybe just add, Kari, thank you so much for sharing this event. It has been fantastic to listen to everything here, and I can confirm that most of the things that has been shown today would be fantastic to have in future vehicles. So just keep on doing the good work you're doing.
Thank you, Andreas, for nice words. And indeed, we have a huge potential with Printocent companies, new products and services in many application areas. And let's go on and make the world more sustainable. So thank you very much to everybody participating, and I wish everybody a nice autumn time, and some of you will see tomorrow in the InnoFest. We continue with innovating new businesses, new products. So thank you everybody, and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.